Hydra in the throat, or who's running around in our body? In the publication by Lydia Vasilyevna Kazmina, unfortunately that's the bitter truth. We are being eaten by fungi. At the end, a method is described for how to lure the Lycogalla fungus out of the body. The idea is based on the notion that a Lycogalla is a very gullible creature, and it can be lured and deceived. Just think how cunning people are. Oh my, yes. I'll start with the backstory. In most cases, when a person supposedly dies of cancer, the actual cause of death is a fungal colony that has grown to such an extent that it leads to the death of the host's body. That's why people experience such excruciating pain before death. And mostly the fungus grows and lives in the body until the person's natural death. And it feels at home, moving throughout the entire body, in some cases at a really high speed. And a person doesn't even realize who's actually in charge inside them, thinking it's just mucus, snot, and natural secretions that the body produces for some reason. In this sense, it's nice to listen to scientists. They say mucus is a very useful substance, and that without it, life simply wouldn't be possible. But have you ever wondered why our wise body, with millions of years of evolutionary experience, needs to produce so much mucus? And what exactly is so useful happening in the body when your nose is running like a faucet and you can't breathe? If a person pays attention to the mucus that moves around in the nasopharynx, and if a person allows themselves the wild thought that this is a separate living substance that exists in our body and starts observing its activity, then very quickly everything in their mind will fall into place, and the ways to deal with this living thing will definitely be found. Perhaps this is the Hydra itself or its functional mobile part, or perhaps it is a slime mold and it is likely that it interacts with the lymph according to some symbiotic principles. You can ponder this in your spare time, and someday we will learn the essence of these organisms and the principles of their interactions, not only with each other, but also with astral parasites that control infernal structures. And maybe we will still have time to be amazed at how perceptive we were in those ancient times. Well, that is now. So, all of us have noticed such manifestations of this organism implanted in us, but we didn't realize why everything happens exactly this way. For example, when a person suddenly starts growling or even shouting during a conversation, as if literally trying to tear something out of their throat that has blocked their access to oxygen. You want to breathe after all. It's a lump of mucus that has clogged the throat and blocked the airways. This mucus is alive even at this very moment. She got into the express elevator and demanded that the person swallow her, and she plunged down into the stomach. That's how some entity rushes through the body at incredible speed. Its life boiling with energy, and it doesn't deny itself anything. Right after the person swallows this lump, the stomach starts to rumble and churn, just like a real sewing machine. It pounces on the partially digested food in the upper part of the stomach and calms down, getting its fill, but just as impatiently, it keeps churning. If a person is about to eat but never actually starts, as they say, he stirred up his granny, let his soul run wild, and now it's restless and uneasy. This entity also creates such blockages in the throat to signal to the person that they need to go eat something, while simultaneously irritating them in some part of the body, for example, in the spine. Like with me, or it triggers pain in the stomach, like with my wife. To develop a reflex in a person, to throw something into the gut, and for the pain or irritation to go away. Probably everyone has heard from someone that if I don't eat, then my stomach hurts. But why would the body cause pain to itself? If food isn't available at the moment, the body should simply feel hunger, and if necessary, switch to economy mode. But it doesn't start killing itself if all sorts of emergencies happen. It's not an idiot. And so you're lying down or sitting, doing something or doing nothing at all, not bothering anyone. But suddenly, out of nowhere, a piece of mucus appears and slides from your nasopharynx into your stomach like on a roller coaster. And you don't even think, what is this suspicious activity happening in my body? Why is there so much going on inside me all of a sudden? The same thing happens with this living mucus while you're eating. You haven't even started chewing yet, you're just smelling delicious food. And a lump of mucus has already formed in your throat. And out of impatience, the first batch goes down into the stomach, hoping that soon a real piece of food will land on it. And, as a rule, it's usually right. The next lump of mucus waits for the moment when you chew your food, and already in the throat it eagerly wraps around it. This impatience is passed on to the person, and we catch ourselves acting as if we haven't eaten for 3 days. Passion, in theory, is some kind of painful lack, even though actual hunger is not felt at that moment. And so, a piece of chewed food literally rolls into a lump of mucus that blocks your throat, and you have an irresistible urge to swallow this lump, because at that moment you can no longer breathe. And this piece of food, tightly wrapped in mucus, crashes into the first section of the stomach, where it is not the body that begins to digest the food, but the living mucus, the slime mold, that starts to absorb it. Hydra, or what is that there? It lives its own comfortable life inside us, in these luxurious apartments in a smart house called human. My assumption is that this creature, maybe it's not just one, but there are several of them, and they exist in symbiosis not only with each other, but also interact with astral parasites that live and reshape the etheric shells of the human body in a similar way. I don't even rule out that lymph is the material part of the energetic parasite. It gradually accumulates in a person, grows, and becomes structured as the energetic body matures and enlarges. Larvae in a person. Of course, I don't argue with that. We need to study these phenomena on a serious level to find out how it all really is. And now we only have guesses based on some indirect observations of an unclear phenomenon. If we look at obesity not from the traditional point of view and place the responsibility for it on the Hydra, the following picture emerges. Lymph, just like the flu, has a wildly fast metabolism, several times faster than that of humans. Experiments show it could be 5-10 times faster, though the exact speed increase hasn't been precisely measured. And this being also needs to eat several times more often, which is why we eat without feeling hungry. If a person were not controlled by Hydra, then perhaps it would be enough for us to eat once every 35 days, or eat much less and only species-appropriate food. Alcohol, smoking, poisonous types of vegetables, fried meat, spicy foods. All of this is either liked by the fungi or poisons them, and in this way it somewhat suppresses their activity. Gradually taking over control from the person, it adjusts their eating habits to suit itself. And the person literally starts eating like they're not themselves. There are attacks of eating, they start eating uncontrollably. But since it's impossible to digest such an abundance and a person starts stuffing themselves, it's not what the body can absorb, but what the parasite wants, so all of this gets stored as fat. That's exactly what the parasite needs. In this way, it fulfills its natural need to store the most ideal food for itself for future use. That's the point. Fat is the most ideal fuel. Ukrainians won't let me lie, but obesity is not just fat, it's also increased lymph, especially in the intestines, plus a lot of mucus and waste products. If we assume that lymph and mucus are foreign organisms, then increasing their mass means their development. And at some point the mass of fungi and lymph will exceed the mass of the person's own body. And since these beings do not have an organ like a brain, but rather think with their whole body, as their body increases, they are guaranteed to become smart enough to take control and subjugate the person to their will. Of course, there are people who are not prone to obesity, and this should mean that they are protected from having their consciousness taken over by fungi. But we don't know exactly how these parasites function and interact with each other. Most likely, they are connected to a single control center. And where some parasites, in this case material ones, cannot act, others, astral ones, step in, including larvas, demons, and who knows what else. And you should know that some energetic, parasitic entities can be at a high level of the hierarchical ladder, and you can't deal with them unprepared. In various discussions, questions arise such as, if lymph is a sentient being, how does it then leave offspring? Does its consciousness move to the next body? Why does it kill a person at an early age, 50 to 80 years old? Doesn't it have a self-preservation instinct? And so on. There are many questions. I think the answers to them will be found, since the questions have already appeared. But for now, we still need to get a reliable answer to the most important question. Is lymph a foreign, implanted entity, or was a person originally designed together with it? And so, let's continue. As a result of the activity of implanted astral and material organisms, a person becomes a vessel for lower order beings, and because of this, his consciousness gradually and inevitably decreases to the level of a parasite's consciousness, while the parasites gain the ability to express themselves and manifest in a higher sphere of activity, that is, in the psychic and social spheres. It turns out that either the fungus or the symbiont plus the fungus perfectly fulfills the mission assigned to it by the global ruler of our civilization, which he not so long ago redirected onto a demonic path of development by carrying out tasks to lower the evolutionary level of the population. As one subscriber suggested in a comment, the result of the lymph's activity is mucus, which explains its abundance in the body. Mucus itself is a non-living substance. But fungi absolutely love it, and not just love it. They use it as a filler, as food, as a habitat, and even as a means of transportation. And God knows what else. Similar to hydras and fungi, symbiosis can happen if the fungi provide benefits to the hydra. Alternatively, the hydra may be indifferent to this arrangement. If the opportunity arises, we'll question her too. Exactly how this interaction happens is still an open question. Let's not forget that this entire implanted structure is controlled externally from a central command center that collects life energy from every person. You can see that it is actually quite material by watching the video on the Osteochondros Diva channel. Let's dig deeper. So the mushroom loves all sorts of treats, and you can actually lure it out through the nose by burying some of its favorite delicacies. And when it comes out to feast, a person naturally starts sneezing and sneezes out the mycelium, and to make the mushroom want to get out even more, it's chased with antibiotics or other poisons that make it feel bad. Let's not forget that these also make the person feel bad. As with any chemotherapy, the mycelium can live in any part of the body. There is evidence of how it was lured out directly through the flesh and skin by smearing the skin with treats. Watch the video Mushrooms Eat Us, and it looks like a boil and then an abscess. And this is actually a fairly quick process. Whatever you haven't been told about this, it's because you don't need to know anything about who lives inside you. And they use the body in an unauthorized way, not for its intended purpose. The management structures should be well aware of the true state of things, and they not only keep these facts secret, but are also active organizers of these processes. If the global predictor has implanted foreign organisms into humans, then it makes sure that every person has this organism. Thus, a limit was set on the average lifespan of humans as a species. We remember how even Piotr I exterminated 300-year-old elders. We remember Bill Gates' statement about how they, with a capital letter, meaning the global governance structures above state authorities, work tirelessly to reduce the population to 1 billion. We have witnessed how medicine persistently fails to see means of fighting oncology and openly opposes real ways to combat cancer. In fact, they already have effective methods at their disposal, which have been invented many times before. And we are no longer surprised that medicine is not standing guard over human health, but rather is focused on limiting the population of humanity. There are known cases where some people have lived their lives without lymph, and even more so without cancer and fungi in their bodies. A child, until a certain stage in the womb, does not have lymph. Meanwhile, these entities, by taking control over humans, actually shape our society through us and want to evolve and continue their own lineage. Perhaps they have their own egregore and a system of resettling entities similar to our incarnation. And for that, they need a place to settle. And such a process would be easy to organize through vaccinations, introducing mushroom spores plus substances that poison the body into every infant in order to weaken their immune system. But we don't check what is being injected into our children, by default trusting that doctors are also people and that they sincerely want to do good for us. Just like priests in temples, like politicians who claim to care about the people. Yes, people with a humane mindset may actually want to do good, but the system that governs civilization wants the exact opposite, and there is nothing humane about it. I'm sure that no one in the world has figured this out yet, at least I haven't heard of anyone who has. How can you simply get rid of fungus without using any remedies at all? We've been convinced that a person doesn't have enough time in their life to figure out even a small part of all diseases, because a huge number of man-hours by scientists have been spent studying each one. And that's why you shouldn't even try to figure it out on your own. Of course, this statement is just as much a lie as everything else. In fact, there are only a few diseases and one can quickly understand their causes, that's all. To live much longer and with better quality than what human science prescribes for him. So, let's start applying this method. Take, for example, salads made from fresh cabbage. The less sharpness there is in it, the tastier and juicier it is. We eat, we chew, but we don't swallow. We observe the following. No matter how much we chew it, the mucus doesn't clog the throat. We eat it, then eat an apple. Still no mucus. We drink water, still none. Now let's take something fried or smoked, put it in our mouth and chew. And instantly it rushes down the throat. A lump of mucus forms and now you're already chewing that smoked food, but the mucus just keeps increasing. Now we interrupt the swallowing reflex. Do it like this. You suck it all into your mouth and without pity for the food, you spit it out into the trash can or the toilet. It's a stunning sight to behold. Put the next portion in your mouth and calmly chew until the next lump falls into your throat. Again, chew thoroughly, mix it with saliva and swallow, and you keep doing this until the saliva runs out. After such a meal, you should be in a slight shock because your nose suddenly starts breathing like never before. This means that the mushroom, now full in your stomach, must return to its natural habitat in the nasal cavity. That is why most people have their noses blocked due to sinusitis, because a fungus lives there. But it didn't return there because it headed for the anals. Sewerage. This simple method has a complication. Since most people have breakfast, lunch and dinner with their family, in a dining room, cafe or as guests, a person doesn't have the opportunity to spit out this piece of mucus in front of everyone. You can't keep running to the bathroom and during a meal at first you'll need to step away more than once. Personally, I somehow got used to it. At first I had to do it about 5 times, but now 2 times is enough. And now I'm followed by an amazing feeling. My nose isn't stuffy, there's no swelling in my nasal cavity, and even in the morning. And not so long ago, I used to lie on a high pillow in an uncomfortable position just to create drainage of mucus from my nasopharynx during the night. Well, at least it helped somehow lately. Of course, the activity of this mucus carrier in the body does not stop. It's just that the part that can move through the body and is released into the throat to coat food is specifically adapted to live in the nasal cavity. And now, after we've removed it this way, the maxillary sinuses and other cavities are clean, dry, and even, you could say, echoing. I remember how my stepfather, before his death, apparently somehow intuitively figured out that this mucus needed to be spit out, and he used a 1-liter jar for this purpose, half a jar of mucus. It looks so disgusting that you can't look at it without shuddering. The sight makes you want to vomit. And just imagine, all of this lives inside our bodies, we diligently swallow it, and day after day we don't spit it out, we reabsorb it so that not a drop is wasted. Most likely this organism, by giving commands in this way, is taking care not to lose its working body carrier. Moreover, what flows from the nose is not part of the body of the fungus or possibly the hydra. We can blow our nose until we lose consciousness, and it won't change this picture. Which cannot be said about the one that moves quickly through the body. Its loss instantly affects the activity of the entire foreign organism. Literally, you just spat it out while eating and that's it. It's not in the nasopharynx, but the fact is that after some time it will grow this body and inhabit the nasopharynx again if it is not expelled regularly. So let's personally research, observe and study this phenomenon and draw conclusions based on facts. Many peoples had a sacred rule not to spit on the ground, supposedly so as not to desecrate it. So it turns out, desecrating it with a hydra fungus. Knowing this, I no longer want to spit, for example, into a compost bucket. But what if this is a living substance that people are infected with and it can breed there, like it possibly happened in the sewers in North Carolina? It's interesting how reality changes after learning information like this. Most people, of course, will just brush it off as another blogger's nonsense, someone who will do anything just to get some hype. But I'm sure that for many people, their usual sense of material reality will never be the same. And now, in this new reality, together with us, in our own bodies, there will be an alien entity living, one that can now actually be influenced and monitored for its manifestations. Moreover, now we will learn to understand how it communicates with us, or rather, how it compels us to act according to its will. Which sense organs does it affect? How does it twist and turn in the stomach in anticipation of the start of digestion? Oh yes, that's just the beginning. Well, alright, to lure out and spit out, as they say, that's no big deal. But is it possible to completely get rid of this foreign organism? I don't know. As soon as I get rid of it, I'll let you know. But it turns out that suppressing its activity, putting it into stasis, is quite possible, as Arnold Ehret wrote in many books. If you're too lazy to read, listen to the audiobook on my channel. By suppressing the production of mucus in the body, a person gains the opportunity to move to the next stage of development and acquires real superhuman abilities of the body. Now, numerous publications on the topic of cleansing the body of mucus, as well as the subject of the hydra introduced into biological bodies of humans and animals in the form of lymph, will also make sense. And finally, to get you out of what I hope is only mild shock, I'll tell you about a method that I have never seen mentioned anywhere else. When it comes to preserving your own health, you often have to rely almost exclusively on yourself. Let's say you've been bitten by mosquitoes, you have some kind of skin irritation or itching. In most cases, the key to recovery is to avoid scratching your skin, so that your body can start the healing process and any remedies you use can take effect. But how can they work if you keep damaging your skin by scratching it over and over again? Most soothing ointments are ineffective, and in any case, the effect comes slowly. And here is a simple instant method for you. Run water at a temperature of about 50 to 60 degrees, so that it burns your skin but doesn't physically damage it. And you start to carefully but methodically pour it over the affected area. You will feel as if you're scratching your skin as hard as you can. The sensation is unforgettable. When you stop pouring like magic, your skin doesn't itch anymore. And this can last from several hours to the next day, after which you can repeat the procedure. And you can do this as many times as you want. That's the beauty of it. And again, it's free. It's no wonder that medicine hasn't bothered to tell you about this method. You won't pay for it after all. Actually, the explanation here is very simple. The body is a biological mechanism, the skin is equipped with sensors, and by overloading them in this way, they temporarily shut down, giving us a break and stopping their alarm signals from being sent insistently to the brain. You might think that's a bad thing, but it's not at all. We know that this mechanism is also used by parasites such as scabies. For some reason it knows how to take advantage of it, but we don't. For various objective reasons, of course. Well, let's learn to do such things on the material level, on the physiological level, managing our own bodies, on the mental, magical, and further up the scale. This, in particular, is what the process of evolution is all about. So, let's follow it.